She stepped in to help an elderly black man when no one else would, but her kindness came at a heavy price. Fired on the spot and humiliated, she was left with nothing until her next move turned the tables and stunned everyone who doubted her. The bell above the store door chimed as customers shuffled in and out of the bustling grocery store. Among them was Claire, a bright-eyed young woman in her early 20s who worked behind the checkout counter. Claire wasn't just any cashier. She was known for her warm smile, cheerful demeanor, and her ability to brighten even the dullest day for her customers. But Claire's job wasn't just about scanning groceries and making change. To her, it was about people. She always made it a point to connect with her customers, no matter how small the interaction. One chilly afternoon, as Claire scanned items for a long line of shoppers, the store's glass doors slid open to reveal an elderly black man. He moved slowly, his weathered coat pulled tightly around him, and his hands trembling slightly from the cold. The man hesitated by the entrance, scanning the aisles as though looking for something or someone. Claire noticed him immediately. "Good afternoon, sir," she called out warmly. "Let me know if you need any help." The man nodded with a faint smile and shuffled toward one of the shelves. Claire turned her attention back to her line of customers but kept an eye on him, sensing something was off. Moments later, as the man approached her counter with a modest collection of items, bread, milk, and a can of soup, Claire saw him fumble with his wallet. His hand shook as he struggled to pull out a few crumpled bills and loose coins. After a brief pause, he looked up at her, his face heavy with embarrassment. "I'm sorry," he said softly, barely meeting her eyes. "I don't think I have enough." Claire's heart sank. She glanced at the items, understanding immediately that these were necessities, not luxuries. Without hesitation, she smiled reassuringly. "It's okay, sir. I'll take care of it." The man's eyes widened in surprise. No, I can't let you do that," he stammered. "Please," Claire insisted gently. "It's on me." The moment felt small but powerful, and the man's gratitude was palpable. "Thank you," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "You don't know what this means to me." As he left the store, Claire couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. She hadn't done much, but she knew it was enough to make a difference. Little did she know, that act of kindness had not gone unnoticed. From across the store, her manager, Mr. Hargrove, had been watching the entire interaction. He stormed toward her with a scowl on his face, his polished shoes clicking sharply against the tiled floor. "Claire!" he barked, loud enough to draw the attention of nearby customers. "What was that?" Claire blinked, startled. "What was what?" "That man," Hargrove snapped. "You paid for his groceries." Claire nodded slowly. "Yes, he was struggling and I thought—" "You thought," Hargrove interrupted, his tone icy. "We don't give handouts here, Claire. This is a business, not a charity." Claire's cheeks flushed as customers began murmuring around them. "It was just a few dollars," she said quietly. "I didn't think it would be a problem." "Well, it is," Hargrove replied sharply. "And I won't tolerate employees breaking policy. You're fired." The words hit Claire like a punch to the gut. "Fired?" she repeated, disbelief washing over her. "For helping someone?" "Yes," Hargrove said firmly. "Pack up your things." The humiliation was almost unbearable as Claire gathered her belongings and walked out of the store. The whispers and stares from customers and co-workers followed her like a shadow. By the time she stepped outside into the cold, her cheeks were wet with tears. But as Claire stood on the sidewalk, clutching her bag tightly, a thought began to form. They might have fired her for being kind, but this wasn't the end of her story. Not by a long shot. The cold air bit at Claire's cheeks as she walked aimlessly down the street, her thoughts racing. Fired for helping someone. It felt surreal. The humiliation from the public firing still lingered, but what stung more was the injustice of it all. She had done what any decent person would do. How could that be wrong? After a few blocks, Claire ducked into a small park and sat on a bench. Tears rolled down her face, but she quickly wiped them away, refusing to let despair take over. She replayed the moment in her mind, the elderly man's trembling hands, his quiet gratitude. If given the chance, she knew she'd do it all over again. Kindness shouldn't cost you everything, she muttered under her breath. The next morning, Claire woke up to a flurry of notifications on her phone. Messages, calls, and emails flooded her inbox, all from people she didn't recognize. Confused, she opened one of the messages. "Claire, I saw what happened at the store yesterday. Your kindness to that man was inspiring, and the way they treated you was completely unfair. You deserve better." More messages echoed the same sentiment. Claire scrolled through her social media feed and was stunned to see a post about her had gone viral. A bystander at the store had recorded the altercation with Hargrove and shared it online, praising Claire's act of kindness and condemning the store's decision to fire her. The video had thousands of views, and comments were pouring in from people all over. Some shared their outrage at the injustice, while others offered support and encouragement. One comment stood out among the rest. "Claire, I run a local news channel and would love to interview you about what happened. Your story needs to be heard." Claire hesitated. She wasn't sure if she wanted to relive the experience, but something inside her urged her to respond. The next day she found herself sitting in a small studio, lights shining on her as the reporter began the interview. "Claire, tell us about the moment you decided to help that man," the reporter asked. Claire took a deep breath. "He needed help, and I couldn't just stand there and do nothing. I didn't think about the consequences. I just did what felt right." The interview aired later that evening, and the response was overwhelming. Claire's story struck a chord with people who had faced similar injustices or admired her courage. The video continued to spread, and soon it wasn't just the local community talking about her, it was the entire country. One evening, as Claire sifted through the countless messages of support, a name caught her eye: Eleanor's Foundation for Elderly Support. The message was simple but heartfelt. "Claire, we saw your story and were moved by your compassion. We'd love to partner with you to help people like the man you supported. Let's talk." Excitement and nervousness bubbled inside her as she replied, setting up a meeting with the foundation's director. 2 days later, Claire sat across from a kind-eyed woman named Eleanor, who listened intently as Claire shared her story. "We need more people like you," Eleanor said warmly. "Your kindness has inspired so many, and we'd love for you to help us with our outreach programs. You could make a real difference." For the first time since she was fired, Claire felt a spark of hope. "I'd love to help," she said, her voice steady with determination. In the weeks that followed, Claire threw herself into the foundation's work. She organized food drives, visited elderly homes, and spoke at community events about the power of kindness. Her story became a rallying cry for compassion, and the elderly man she had helped even reached out to thank her personally. But the most surprising twist came when a local entrepreneur, inspired by Claire's resilience, approached her with an unexpected offer. Claire sat across from the entrepreneur, a middle-aged man named Peter, who radiated confidence and warmth. He had reached out after hearing her story, intrigued by her compassion and resilience. Over coffee, he leaned forward and smiled. "Claire," Peter began, "your story has touched so many people, including me. You didn't just stand up for that man. You stood up for the values we should all live by. And I believe people like you can do more." Claire tilted her head, curious. "What do you mean?" Peter placed a folder on the table and slid it toward her. "I own a chain of small stores across the region. We're about helping people, not just making sales. I'd like you to manage one of them, or even partner with me to turn it into something truly special." Claire's jaw dropped. "Me? A manager? I don't know if I'm qualified." Peter chuckled. You're more than qualified. You've proven you have integrity, leadership, and compassion, qualities money can't buy. That's what I'm looking for." The idea was daunting, but Claire couldn't ignore the spark of excitement growing in her chest. "I'll need some time to think about it," she said cautiously. "Take all the time you need," Peter replied. "But I believe in you, Claire, and I think you can create something amazing." That night, Claire lay awake in bed, her thoughts racing. The offer was a dream come true, but it was also a huge responsibility. Could she really manage a store? Could she take what she had learned and turn it into something meaningful? The next morning, as she walked into the Foundation's office, Eleanor noticed the conflicted look on her face. "What's on your mind?" she asked. Claire explained Peter's offer, her voice tinged with uncertainty. Eleanor listened carefully before placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Claire, you've already proven you can make a difference. This is your chance to do it on a bigger scale. Don't doubt yourself. You're capable of more than you know." Bolstered by Eleanor's encouragement, Claire made her decision. She called Peter and accepted his offer, her voice trembling with a mix of nerves and excitement. "I want to do this," she said. "Let's make it something great." Peter was thrilled. "Welcome aboard, Claire. I can't wait to see what you'll bring to the table." Over the next few weeks, Claire worked closely with Peter to transform the store into a place that prioritized kindness and community. She implemented new policies that ensured fair treatment for employees, launched initiatives to help underserved customers, and even partnered with Eleanor's Foundation to provide discounts and assistance for the elderly. The store quickly gained a reputation as more than just a retail space. It became a community hub. Customers loved the warm, welcoming atmosphere, and employees found themselves thriving under Claire's leadership. The success of the store even caught the attention of local media, who featured Claire's journey as an example of resilience and the power of doing what's right. But one day, something unexpected happened. As Claire was helping a customer, she looked up and saw a familiar figure walk through the door. It was Mr. Hargrove, her former manager from the grocery store. Hargrove hesitated as he approached her, his expression a mix of shame and regret. "Claire," he began, his voice quieter than she'd ever heard it. "I wanted to say I'm sorry. I was wrong to fire you. I see now what you were trying to do and, well, I admire what you've accomplished here." For a moment, Claire didn't know what to say, but then she smiled, a calm confidence in her voice. "Thank you, Mr. Hargrove. I appreciate that. But more importantly, I hope it's a lesson for all of us about the power of kindness." Hargrove nodded, his head bowed slightly before turning to leave. Claire watched him go, feeling a sense of closure she hadn't realized she needed. Claire's store quickly became the talk of the town. Customers raved about the atmosphere, employees thrived under her leadership, and the initiatives she introduced made a tangible difference in the community. She had turned a small opportunity into something remarkable, and people noticed. One evening, as Claire locked up the store after a long day, she found Eleanor waiting outside. "I just wanted to stop by and see how you're doing," Eleanor said with a smile. "I'm doing great," Claire replied. "Better than I ever thought possible." Eleanor nodded. "You've built something incredible here, Claire, but I wanted to talk to you about taking it even further." Claire raised an eyebrow. "Further? How?" Eleanor handed her a folder. Inside were plans for a new program that combined Eleanor's Foundation with Claire's community-focused retail approach. "We want to partner with you to open more stores like this one, places where people aren't just customers but part of a community. We think you're the perfect person to lead the charge." The idea was thrilling, but Claire felt a familiar wave of doubt. "Eleanor, I'm just one person. How can I take on something so big?" Eleanor placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You've already proven you can make a difference, Claire. This is just the next step, and you won't be doing it alone." After a long night of deliberation, Claire decided to take the leap. Over the next few months, she worked tirelessly with Eleanor's team and Peter's business network to expand their vision. They opened 2 more stores in neighboring towns, each one designed to support the elderly, underserved families, and anyone in need of a helping hand. Claire became a beacon of hope in the community. Her story continued to spread, and she was invited to speak at events and conferences about the power of kindness and resilience. She often reflected on how far she had come, from being fired in humiliation to leading a movement that touched countless lives. One day, during a press event for the opening of a new store, Claire was approached by a young woman holding a notepad. "Ms. Claire," she said nervously, "I've been following your story, and I just wanted to say thank you. You inspired me to stand up for what's right in my own workplace." Claire smiled warmly. "That means the world to me. Never underestimate the impact of doing what's right. It can change lives in ways you can't imagine." But Claire's most memorable moment came when the elderly man she had helped at the grocery store visited one of her new stores. He looked healthier, his eyes bright with gratitude, as he approached Claire. "I've been wanting to thank you properly," he said, his voice steady. "What you did for me that day gave me hope when I needed it most. And seeing what you've accomplished now, I'm proud to have been a part of your story." Claire felt a lump rise in her throat. "You're the reason I'm here," she replied. "Helping you reminded me of what really matters. Thank you for letting me be part of your journey too." As Claire watched him leave, she realized that her journey had come full circle. What started as a single act of kindness had blossomed into a movement that transformed not only her life, but the lives of so many others. Months turned into years, and Claire's vision continued to grow. What began as one store blossomed into a network of community-focused businesses, each one dedicated to uplifting those in need. She wasn't just a businesswoman. She was a symbol of resilience, kindness, and the power of standing up for what's right. Claire's journey was celebrated far and wide. She was invited to speak at national conferences, where she shared her story of compassion and redemption. Her speeches often began with the same words: "Kindness isn't a weakness. It's the greatest strength we have. It may cost us something in the moment, but its rewards are immeasurable." One day, Claire received a call from a prominent non-profit organization that specialized in workplace fairness. They wanted her to join their board and help create policies to prevent the kind of injustice she had faced. "We believe your perspective could help change how businesses operate," the director told her. Claire gladly accepted, knowing this was another opportunity to make a difference. Her influence extended beyond her stores and into boardrooms, where she championed employee rights and advocated for workplace environments that prioritized compassion over profit. Despite her growing responsibilities, Claire never lost touch with her roots. She often returned to her first store, walking the aisles, chatting with employees, and greeting customers. On one particular visit, she found herself face to face with a familiar figure: Mr. Hargrove. He was older now, his posture less rigid, his face lined with age and regret. He hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Claire," he said quietly, "I heard about everything you've done. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for how I treated you and for not seeing the bigger picture back then." Claire looked at him for a long moment, her expression soft but unreadable. "Thank you for saying that," she replied. "But what matters now is that we learn from the past and do better moving forward." Hargrove nodded, his gaze dropping. "You've done incredible things, Claire. You've shown me what real leadership looks like." As Claire watched him leave, she felt a sense of closure. The man who had once humiliated her was now humbled, and the circle of her journey felt complete. But for Claire, this wasn't the end. It was just another chapter in her mission to make the world a better place. Years later, standing in front of a packed auditorium, Claire addressed an audience of aspiring leaders. Behind her was a screen displaying a single phrase: "One act of kindness." "This is where it all began," she said, her voice steady and filled with emotion. "I was fired for helping someone, and it felt like the end of my world. But that moment wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something far greater than I could have imagined. Kindness has the power to change everything. It changed my life, and I hope it changes yours too." The room erupted into applause, and Claire stood there, a testament to the fact that even the smallest acts of kindness can create ripples that change lives forever.